On their wedding day, tragedy unfolds when Jane's parents, drunk driving, accidentally kill Mason Bell's entire family, transforming joy into heartbreak. To atone for her parents' sins, Jane endures Mason's torment for 5 long years before finally walking away. Mason was heartbroken the next day when he confronted Jane, gripping her neck tightly. "I've sent your parents to prison, but as for you, I'll let you suffer to atone for their sins," he hissed, his eyes blazing with anger. Jane cried and bled, revealing she was 2 months pregnant, begging for mercy, but Mason ignored her and walked away. The following day, he took her to a club, declaring, "Today is our wedding anniversary, and I have a gift for you." Jane felt fear creep in. She knew more suffering awaited her. Without warning, Mason forced a drink into her mouth, compelling her to swallow against her will while his guards held her down. "So you can't drink again? I thought your parents were heavy drinkers who killed my whole family," he spat, fury lighting up his eyes. With tears brimming in her eyes, Jane pleaded, "But my parents already paid with their lives, isn't that enough?" Mason shook his head, his fury intensifying. "No, it's not enough," he replied, his eyes blazing with anger. "Death can't bring my parents back, so you must atone for it." He continued to pour drink after drink into her unwilling mouth. Just then, Mason's girlfriend entered and suggested, "Let's go have dinner." Mason, eager to hurt Jane, leaned in and kissed his girlfriend before agreeing. He took her hand, leaving Jane in despair. Alone and broken, Jane reflected on her lonely life, haunted by the memory of how her parents had died in prison. The next day, Jane brought Mason a prayer bracelet for his birthday, but he received it with anger. "Since my parents died, I've stopped celebrating birthdays," he growled. "Don't think you can atone for this or pay me back." He flung the bracelet back at her, shattering her heart. "Can't you let me go?" she begged. "I can't let you go for what your parents did to mine," he shouted, rage palpable. "I watched my sister die in front of me, my mother and father, all because of your parents' reckless driving." He seized her neck, tightening his grip until she struggled to breathe. Just then, Mason's girlfriend walked in, smiling and holding a birthday present. She handed it to him, and he beamed, pulling her close and professing his love in front of Jane, reveling in her pain. Heartbroken, Jane turned away and walked out. The following day, as Jane was driving, she suddenly swerved to throw herself onto the road, making it appear as though she had hit someone. Mason rushed to the scene, his eyes aflame with anger as he knelt beside the injured Betty. "Why did you hit her with your car? Isn't it enough? Your family already killed mine." In shock and fear, Jane pleaded, "No, it was Betty who threw herself in front of the car. Please, trust me." But Mason refused to listen. Just then, the doctor burst out of the operating room, urgently announcing that Betty needed a kidney transplant. Mason's eyes blazed with anger as he turned to the doctor, instructing him to take Jane's kidney and give it to Betty. Jane cried and pleaded, but Mason coldly replied, "You owe me a lot in this life, and you owe Betty even more. Donating your kidney doesn't mean anything." He dragged her away as she shouted and sobbed. The surgery was completed, and later that day, Mason stood watching Jane through the door as she struggled to stand. His heart raced. Despite his torment, he still loved her deeply and cared for her well-being. The next day, Mason's girlfriend entered the room, mocking Jane. "Oh, thanks to your kidney," she taunted. "I'll take everything that belongs to you." In a swift move, she shoved Jane, causing her to fall and bleed. Mason rushed in, panic overtaking him as he cried out for the doctors to help. When Jane regained consciousness, the doctor assured her she was fine but needed more rest. Mason leaned in, a cruel smirk on his face. "Don't get me wrong, it's not as if I care about you. I just want you to be well enough so that I can keep torturing you." With resignation in her voice, Jane replied, "Fine, then please just end my life." The following day, she visited a cemetery to purchase a plot for herself, preparing for the possibility of her own death. After Jane returned home in tears, memories flooded back of how Manson had once loved her deeply, promising to protect her. But those promises felt hollow now. Through her tears, she whispered to herself, "I will make amends before I die." Just then, Manson's girlfriend, Betty, entered, mocking Jane. "Manson doesn't love you anymore," she sneered, insisting that the bodyguard should be chained up to beat Jane and her beloved dog, Pet. As Jane screamed in anguish, she pushed Betty to the floor in a fit of rage. Manson stormed in moments later, and Betty feigned injury, shifting the blame onto Jane. With fury in his eyes, Manson demanded, "What are you doing? Do you want to kill her? She just had a kidney transplant." In tears, Jane pleaded, "Betty attacked me and killed Pet, the dog you gave me." Manson coldly replied, "There's no need to feel bad. We don't love each other anymore, so it's better this way. The dog is dead." He turned to Betty, asking how they should punish Jane. "Let's lock her up and starve her for a day," she suggested, and Manson agreed. As Betty pretended to be ill, Manson lifted her and walked away, leaving Jane broken and devastated. Next day, while Manson treated Jane's wounds as she slept, she opened her eyes to find him feigning indifference. Just then, his phone rang. It was Betty, announcing she was pregnant. Tears filled Jane's eyes as she whispered, "How wonderful, he has a new lover and a child." The following day, Jane visited her late mother and Manson's family cemetery to pay her respects. Manson arrived, furious, grabbing her by the neck. "How dare you show up here after what your parents did?" he spat. Manson glared at Jane, demanding that if she wanted to pay her respects, she would have to crawl and kneel in the rain before the tomb, shouting, "She's a murderer. She deserves to die." With a heavy heart, Jane agreed, understanding the twisted punishment she faced. As she knelt and crawled through the downpour, tears streamed down her face as she cried out, "She's a murderer." Manson followed closely behind, though his heart was heavy with conflict. Jane sobbed, apologizing to his late parents for the pain that had been inflicted. After the ordeal, as they drove home in silence, Manson's phone rang. It was Betty. He answered, and she insisted on seeing him. Without a second thought, he ordered Jane to get out of the car, driving away and leaving her alone in the dark. Feeling utterly abandoned, Jane whispered to herself, "It's time. If I end my life, everything will go back to normal. Everything will be over." With a final goodbye to Manson, she stepped into the river, surrendering to the depths below.